Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Okay, hello everybody. Good to have you here with us today. As we said last Tuesday, we do have a special guest, Roberto Watanabe, again with us. A lot of people request his presence, his way to think, and here it is. And he will talk today about the justice of afflictions. So it's good to have all you from United States. Thank you for your time. Hello, Jersey. How are you? Our dear friend, Don. Good. I hope you are good in Chicago. So I hope everybody's okay. Thank you all to our Irish friends as well. Thank you for this time. And before we start this speech, I would like to invite everyone to do the initial prayer. And in order to do this initial prayer, I would ask if you want, to close your eyes, but open up your heart and make connection with superior spirits, with our mentors, with Jesus. Ask them to give us with what we need in order to progress, in order to evolve, according to our merits, according to our needs. At the same time, we ask them to enlighten our speaker today, Roberto Watanabe, to allow him to his words reach everyone's heart and give more clarity about the Spiritism teachings. So be it. Amen. Okay, my dear friend. Is everything okay? I know you are almost melting in Brazil right now.
We are what?
Melting.
Melting. Yes.
Yeah.
Very hot here. Yeah.
It's a lot of it's very warm there. Let me see. We are saying 37 Celsius, 37. The average in Brazil right now is around 90s Fahrenheit. 90s.
Wow.
90 Fahrenheit. So it's warm, pretty warm.
Pretty warm.
So how are you keeping, my friend?
Well, I'm fine. Thank you. And how about you?
Yeah. Okay. Great. Preparing for the winter here. A hurricane will approach Ireland by Friday, so we are fine. Great.
Not that much, right?
Yeah, the Hurricane Alex.
Yeah.
If they didn't change the course, we reach Ireland in the south side by Friday afternoon. So it's exciting times coming. Yeah.
I hope it don't happen to you.
No, everything okay. But we are here. We are doing our lives. It's good to see a lot of people are asking. I went to see your previous lives. And the comments in this reach over 100 people. So it means we are doing the right job. And the comments about your speech is very instructive. Okay.
Wow.
So I would leave you here. I'm in the background. If you need anything, please let me know.
Okay.
Thank you and enjoy, everybody.
Okay. Hello, everybody. May the peace of Jesus be in our heart. We are going to talk today about the justice of afflictions, like Stefan said. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, and I will start here with my presentation. Is that okay, Stefan? Are you seeing the presentation?
Yeah, it's just beside you, so you can see.
Stefan?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Can I start? Okay.
Ciao. Kick off.
Okay. So we will be talking today about the justice of afflictions. This is based on the chapter 5 about the gospel according to Spiritism. So it answers many questions we normally have about what happens in our lives, especially regarding problems, suffering. So these chapters enlighten our minds about the reasons for for those afflictions, right? So it is based on the chapter 5 also from the Gospel according to Saint Matthew. So there, Jesus said these words, "Blessed are they who weep, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are they who suffer persecution because of righteousness, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs." So what Jesus wanted to say with these words. So that's what we are going to study today on the Spiritism point of view. So we know that it's an fact that we suffer many vicissitudes throughout our lives. We may have problems of many types. We have conflicts with others and sometimes with ourselves. Losses, we face losses of many types. Material things, losses of loved ones. Sooner or later, we will go through diseases, and we also are going through this pandemic today, for example. So this is the vicissitudes that Kardec says that we go throughout our lives. But by the other hand, Jesus promises compensations to the afflicted in the future life. So that's what we just read from the Gospel of Saint Matthew. He is promising some compensations. But what is difficult to accept is why, in order for us to be happy one day, we must go through afflictions. We must go through problems. Why it couldn't be the opposite? So this is a question that raises everything, especially when we go through these afflictions. And also this is especially true when there are some situations that we cannot fully understand, a situation that nothing can explain. For example, why do some suffer more than others? They are equal in character, in material conditions, psychological. Why some suffer more? Why are some born into poverty and others into richness without having done anything to justify such position? Why does nothing work out for some and everything seems to smile to others? Everything is goes well to others. So that kind of question that you raise it in our minds. And also Kardec raised this question, why benefits and misfortunes are so unequally divided between vice and virtue? Because logically we think that benefits should go to virtue, to virtuous people, and misfortunes to vice. But we see that the opposite happens in the real world. So why is that? What is the reason for that, right? So that's some of the questions, some questions that raise our minds, and then we don't find the answers to those questions. And this chapter here is going to explain to us those reasons, right? Um, most of all, we must have faith in God's justice, because when we are talking about the justice of afflictions, well, the title is telling us that our afflictions is according to some justice. So what we must understand is which kind of a justice is applying to these situations we go through our lives. But Kardec says that if one believes in God, one cannot conceive him apart from infinite perfection. So if God is infinite, he shouldn't punish good people and reward bad people, let's say that way. So being supreme, being good and just, he can have a partial view of the person. Kardec said he can neither act capriciously nor partially. So therefore, vicissitudes of life must have a cause. And if God is just, that cause, which is according to God's law, must also be just. That's what we are going to see through Spiritism. In the affliction and the vicissitudes of life, afflictions that we go through, there are two types. Some are caused by us ourselves in the present life, and others outside of this present life. For example, many of the earthly misfortunes, Kardec says, many of the earthly misfortunes are the natural consequences of our character and behavior. So Kardec comments on the gospel according to Spiritism. He asks, he says, how many are victims of their own imprudence, pride, and ambition? How many ruin themselves for lack of discipline or perseverance? How many disagreements could have been avoided with more moderation? And how many ills are the consequence of intemperance and excess of all kinds? So what Kardec is saying here that most of the afflictions we go through is caused by ourselves, by the way we act in our present life. And such misfortunes, according to God's justice, the reason for such misfortune is not to punish us, but is a kind of a warning that we must improve ourselves. We have erred, and we have to improve ourselves. So it's kind of a beneficial warning to us. Like a nail, for example, when we get a disease, we must think how we are living, what we are eating, how stressing is our life. So these are occasions that we must reflect about our life. So this is the one thing that the Spiritism tell us, is that afflictions have this objective, right? So it's a warning, it's not a punishment. And Kardec says sometimes the experiences arrives a bit late, when the person realizes what's happening in his or her life. So it's late. But then, according to Spiritism, we have the benefit of the reincarnation, where we can start all over again. Okay, so this is about the current causes of afflictions. But there are some situations that we cannot explain in this present life of the people. So it's the next topic. For example, there are misfortunes in this life which is completely foreign to us, Kardec says. So in this situation, how can we explain that? For example, sometimes people experiencing loss of loved ones. And for example, what is especially hard, loss of a family breadwinners. So this is a very tough situation, especially if the person is a child, right? We can see reversals of fortune that frustrates all measures of prudence. The person make all efforts to succeed, and then don't happen. So this is difficult to understand. And there are also some situations, for example, congenital infirmities. For example, the people is born with the physical or mental disabilities. Well, if he was born, he's born with that situation, what is the reason? The person did not have a chance to see any evil that could justify such a situation. He born in that situation, right? And we also have the situation where children, for example, die in a very young age. Why is the reason for that, right? So in situation like this, Kardec says that if the cause cannot be found in the present life, it's because we only can find it in previous lives that we had. So Kardec says, those who suffer today are expiating their past. And also he says, even evil persons who do not expiate their evil today will do it tomorrow. So is that situation that we talked in the beginning, right? So people with on vice, for example, is linked to vice, but anyway, everything goes well to that person. Well, it can go well in this present life, but in the future life, it will be different. So because the divine justice is always working, right? The human justice can fail, but the divine justice never fails. So that is the reason for the faith in God's justice. If we have this faith, we can know that every cause has its effect. Good cause has good effect, bad cause has bad effect, right? So, but Kardec also says that there are some situations where the tribulations may also be trials chosen by our spirit. What does it mean by choosing? Choose a spirit to choose a trial. That happens, of course, before incarnating, right? For example, if a person does bad or good, evil during the present life, then after he discarnated, he goes to the spiritual world, and then there he reflects about what he did. He realizes the wrongs that he did, and then he decided to go back in a new incarnation, and he said, well, this time I'm going to do good. So, and for that purpose, he chooses some trials, and then this is the reasons also of this misfortune that we talked here in this topic. And but Kardec says expiation always serves as a trial, but a trial is not always an expiation. So what is trial? A trial is a situation when the person chooses that affliction that he's going to go through, and once he is here, he or she is here, he faces that affliction with no feeling of revolt, of anger. He accepts it. He tries to do the best he can. And expiation is a situation where the spirit does not have such kind of thinking, right? So he still doesn't see what they did of good or bad in the past. So in that situation, we say that the spirit has an expiation. And normally, for example, a person or a spirit may choose a trial, but when he is here, instead of going through that affliction with serenity, he goes with anger and revolt. And so that trial becomes an expiation. So in the final end, the difference in the trial and expiation is basically in our mind, right? The way we face the afflictions of our life, whether with serenity, trying to do our best, or with anger and revolt. That's makes the difference between trial and expiation. So, but then we can ask, people can ask, well, but I don't remember what I did in my previous life. So how can I go through this affliction? It's not fair to have it through that affliction, right? Because I don't remember what I did before. So in that case, what Spiritism explains us that forgetting the past has a reason also, which is our next topic. So Kardec says, if God has deemed it appropriate to cast a veil over the past, so that I don't remember who we were, what we did, it's because it must be useful. So Kardec says that God gives us what is necessary, the voice of conscience and our instinctive tendency, taking what could harm us. So what could harm us, God take from us in this present existence. But it's only during incarnation, right? Because before this present life, we will remember again, right? When we go to the spiritual world. So that's why he says forgetfulness occurs only during corporeal life. So during here, when we are incarnated. So why the reason for forget so about the past? Because Kardec says it could entail serious inconvenience. For example, in certain cases, it could humiliate us greatly, or perhaps exalt our pride. Suppose, for example, that we remember that in the previous life we were a criminal. So with that conscience today, how could we start again? It's very difficult. We can see it now in our terrestrial world, how difficult it is for a person who did something bad and went to prison. When he will go out for prison, how difficult it is for him to start over again, because it is very difficult. People don't accept him. Oh, this was a prisoner. So when you go through one life to another life, from new incarnation, everything is forgotten. So not only for the person, but for the people who were involved in that previous life. So this is very beneficial because allow us to starting over again without any of these problems, right? The one example of what could perhaps exalt our pride that Kardec says here, that remember, by the other hand, that in the previous life I was a very powerful person, and now I'm in a very humble situation. So that's very difficult to face. And if we remember what we were in the past, we would tend to behave in the same way. But today we are in a different situation, because this is what happens through reincarnation. The main objective of reincarnation, as we know, is for us to evolve, right, and intellectually and morally. So, and for that we must go through many situations. So we can reincarnate. This is something that Spiritism says. We can incarnate as men. We can incarnate as women. We can incarnate as rich, as poor. In one country, another country. So in many situations, because this is what make the experience of this spirit very, very powerful to evolve, right? So, but Kardec says we don't remember then the details of what we were in the past, but we have the voice of a conscience, because we don't remember exactly what happened, but when we face it in some situation, our consciences guide us to do what is right, if we hear our conscience, right? And instinctive tendencies is for example, we have some instinct that we bring to the past, and we know if we think deeply in about ourselves, we can see our instincts. So these instinct tendencies is what we bring to the past, and then in this present situation, we must control those tendencies, right? Because instinct must be under the guide of a reason, right? So that's what is God give to us, and that is sufficient to go through this life. And as I said before, Kardec says, this occurs only during corporeal life. And also during the sleep of the body, when we sleep at night, also the body is resting, but the spirit doesn't need it to rest, right? Doesn't need it to sleep. So during the night, we also can go through many activities, and then when we are released from this corporeal, the corporeal bonds are not so tight, then we can have more conscience of what we were in the past, and what we really what a person we really are. So we have all this situation also that help us go through this situation we face in our lives. So this is basically the main things involved in this issue of the justice of afflictions, right? So therefore there are many reasons for resigning when we face the afflictions of our life. And as Kardec says, we can either soften or increase the bitterness of our trials, depending on how we view earthly life. So if we concentrate on our corporeal life, then everything seems much more difficult. Pains, like he says, pain seems to be unending, right? But when we look at things from the standpoint of the spiritual life, we are immortal as spirits. Corporeal existence is just a short part of our infinite existence. Then we will have another view of life, of our present life. Then everything diminishes under our view, right? Because the spirit is immortal, so we have the infinite to live. So that is the situation that Kardec is talking here, and so that those who have this view of the spiritual life, they show a resignation. That resignation is useful to the health of the body and to the soul. So basically what we can see here, that everything in spiritualism is about consciousness, right? Is the way we show our life, is the way we understand who we really are as immortal spirits who are here in this corporeal existence, only to get more experience and evolve. And problems is not to punish us. Problems is or either is a warning of what we are doing wrong, or is something that we must face that will how can I say, facing our problem, we apply our intelligence, and that's also making us evolve. And so these two situations that we can talk here. So many reasons for resign when we face afflictions, right? here we have a topic which was main topic of last month, right? The September was the month of suicide prevention, and here Kardec says that when the person has a view only of the material life, on the corporeal life, then if such person is going through serious problems, life loses all their meaning, and then they find no meaning to proceed existing, and then in some cases they cut their lives by themselves, and that is a very wrong action, right? So here is what Kardec says, that this happens not only suicide but also insanity. It happens because of disbelief in God's justice and the materialistic idea. So the person sees only what happens in this corporeal life. So with the Spiritism, the outlook on life changes completely, because believers know that life goes on indefinitely, right, beyond the grave. So in this case, we Spiritists, for example, we say that if a person suicides, it doesn't mean that everything ends, right? He or she will find that the people that life continues beyond the grave, and for the action that they took, they continue beyond the grave in a very difficult situation. So this is what the Spiritist literature tell us about the experience. Well, we have a heaven and hell from Kardec. We have some examples there of the spiritists that committed suicide, and they went to the spiritual world, and from there they are telling us how much is how suffering was finding themselves living before the suicide act, and in a very difficult situation, right? And so the resignation and faith in the future give us this serenity necessary to go ahead, right? And is the best preservative against insanity and suicide, because sometimes people become insane because he can't afford the problems that he facing in their lives. And then we can ask, well, is there a situation where God gives us problems that we can't face, which is more than we can face? Well, the answer is no. This is what we are going to see, I think, next. Yes, it's here. So here Kardec says, actually it's not Kardec, right? This is if you go to the chapter 5 of our Gospel according to Spiritism, these are some messages from spirits, right? In this case, evolved spirit, of course. And in this text here, the Spirit says that if you understand that only trials that are borne well can lead them to happiness. For what is he saying here? What we mentioned before. If we face a trial, a problem, affliction, misfortune, if we face it with the anger, with the revolting, that is suffered badly, as the Spirit is saying here. If we face that trial, trying to do our most, trying to keep it serene, and keeping faith in the future, in that case, is what the Spirit says. This is to suffer well, and this can lead to happiness, not to face it with the anger or revolt. So he says discouragement is a fault, and God refuses consolation if we lack courage. But as we just mentioned before, the burden that God put in our shoulders is never in excess. So that's the Spirit is saying here. We have often been told that God does not put heavy burden on weak shoulders. So he put the burden that we can afford, right? So if the person thinks that he cannot afford, and like the topic before, get insane or commit suicide, is not that it was more than he could afford. It's because of the way he faced that burden, right? So he concludes saying that the burden is proportional to strength. So of course, if people have more strength, a person has more strength, he can carry a higher burden, a larger burden, right? And the opposite is the same. So, and just as the reward will be proportionate to the resignation courage. So, here's some messages from the Spirit that they are make some comments. They are enriching our understanding of the first topics that we just saw. We just get through, and so here we're just going now a little bit on the Spirit's book, because when we talk about previous lives, problems, causes from the previous life, we are talking about reincarnation, right? So in the question 166 of the Spirit's book, Kardec asks to the Spirit, how can a soul who did not reach perfection during its corporeal life complete the work of its purification? We know that it's not possible to any one of us to complete perfection in just one life, right? So, but then how can we reach this perfection? Because the Book of the Spirit says that we spirits were created simple and ignorant, but our objective, our goal that God set to us, it is to become perfect. So how can we become perfect in just one life? It's impossible. So then the answer from the Spirit, right? To complete the work of the purification, we must go through the trial of a new existence. So reincarnation. And then Kardec asks, then does the soul live in many corporeal existences? Of course, he said, yes, we all live many lives, and those who say otherwise, we wish to keep you in the ignorance that they themselves are, right? So here is much clear about the justice of affliction is very linked, very connected to reincarnation. And then Kardec asked, what is the purpose of a reincarnation? And they answer, expiation, because we are, unfortunately, we are still in a world of trials and expiations. It is a world where we have more evil than good. That's why we have expiation. But also humankind's progressive improvement. So there is this. Actually, both things are good for us. Expiation is to correct our views, right? And in progress is to improve our intelligence and our moral view of life, right? So they complete with the answer, right? Without reincarnation, how could there be justice? This is just what we just saw, right? In the situation where we can see a person who is already born with a physical mental disability. What can explain that, right? Only a previous life, because in this life he didn't have any chance to justify that infirmities, right? So you see that the reincarnation is the key, is the main key for many things to explain our life in general, right? And so now to conclude, Kardec talks a little bit to the end of the Spirit's book about happiness. Difficult for us to reaching happiness, fully to be fully happy in this world, because as I said, it's a world of trials and expiations. It would be very it could be selfish from our side if we, with many people suffering in this world, we could say that we are completely happy. It's difficult to say that. So, but a relative happiness is possible. So that's what Kardec is asking here the spirits on the end of the book and the question 920. So he asks, can people enjoy completely happiness while on earth? And they say no, because life has been given to them, it means to us, as either as a trial or an expiation, because we are spirits still trying to improving ourselves, right? And then, but then they complement. It's up to them to mitigate their misfortune and to be as happy as possible while on earth. So we cannot be fully happy, but we can have a relative happiness. And how can we reach such a relative happiness? And the answer for that is the same answer to the question 922 that Kardec did for the spirits. Is there a common standard of happiness for all of us? And then his answer, yes, for the material existence, it is the possession of all that is necessary. So what is they are saying here? That sometimes we look for, we have already the necessary and in many situations, but we look for more. So why is that? It's not that is not necessary. So if we keep in the possession of only of what is necessary, that is a common standard of happiness for them. And this is from the material point view of our life. But for the moral life, they say it is a good conscience and faith in the future. This is what Kardec said all over the chapter 5 of the Gospel of the Spirit, right? So these two points here is all that is necessary for us to have a relative happiness in this world. So it doesn't mean that we have this happiness only for ourselves, because if reincarnation is a basic principle of Spiritism, we also know by the Gospel according to Spiritism that charity is another basic principle of Spiritism. So it means that if we are going to, if we want to be happy, the best way to reach such a goal is to make others people happy. So that's the meaning of charity. Charity is not the meaning of only giving food for people, clothes, or things like that, right? Charity is to concern about the others and to trying to make them happy. So that will return to us, and we will feel happy. We will feel happy, and we will reach happiness in doing that. So that is in the basic principle of Spiritism, and that also is based on the Gospel from Jesus, right? So that is what I would like to bring to you today regarding this issue, and I hope it was clarifying. And I'm ready now for any question or observation you may have.
Good. Oh, it's always listen someone talk about it, because this Sunday I gave my talk here in Spiritist Society of Ireland. Mm. One of the questions I asked to everyone is like, how big or how heavy is your cross?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people say, "Oh, mine's too big, mine's too heavy," but it's exactly the same size we need to
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No? Yeah.
Yeah.
Our friend Dirce, she puts a comment here. The simple fact that we have the opportunity for a new incarnation is enough to face afflictions with courage, strength, and trust in God, because we know that nothing happens by chance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Dirce.
Thank you,
Yeah,
dear, for your help.
yeah. But going back to our discussion about the size of our cross,
Mm.
do you think perhaps we do have the right size, the right weight of our cross,
Mm.
but the problem is our material needs help us to make this heavier.
The material means.
The material things, well, like
Mm.
our attachment to the material things, will make
Ah,
this
yeah. Mm. Yeah.
heavy,
Mm.
heavier.
Yeah, everything. At the end, everything depends on our mindset, how we see this situation. Right? Yes, if you would say, well, from material things, for example, in one sense, it can be uh, part of the affliction of the life of a person, right? And when he hasn't have enough material things that he needs, but if the person looks only to material things, that I would say make him or her look into the wrong direction, right? So that can make the cross that is on his or her shoulder heavy, is because he's not looking at the right direction. Um, this is also something that you must think about. Many times we go through affliction that really make us worry about is sometimes because we are not looking, we are not reflecting on the meaning of this situation to us. And then in that case, to have these explanations from Spiritism is something that help us a lot to, to make it, let's say, these crosses that we carry on shoulders, this exercise they are, and not make them um, higher than larger than they are, right? Longer than they are.
Yeah. I think it's right. Like we need to perhaps our superfluous needs, the
Yeah.
problems we created, uh, doesn't interfere in the size of our cross or the weight of the cross.
Mhm.
It's just problems that we create to ourselves, and sometimes we don't know how to fix, how to get rid of these problems, and it's easy to blame someone, especially God.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, and more important here, Stefan, that we just saw in this explanation about the chapter 5 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, talking about the justice of afflictions, is that actually the cross that are on our shoulders, the reason for that is in ourselves, right? So it's exactly what was said.
Yeah.
Most of our afflictions is caused by ourselves, either on our present life, or if not, that if that is not the case, then in our previous life. But well, uh, what does it mean by this present life, previous life? Is something that is someone did? No, something that we did, right? Is the consequence of our actions in the present life and in the previous life. So actually, the cross is not put in our. Where you see that the text said God does not put a heavier burden on our shoulder. Well, actually it's not God that put the burden on our shoulder. We ourselves put it by our imprudence, by so that is something that I think is very interesting about Spiritism, that you don't need, we have conscience. We always talk about consciousness. We say that the law of God, the divine laws are in our conscience. So actually, we don't need anyone to put crosses on our shoulders. Our consciousness put by itself. Let's say we put by ourselves those.
Yeah. What I mean is like we create our own problems. We are
Yeah.
responsible
Yes, and
for our own problems, and the easiest way is to blame someone. And again, now talking to the spiritists is common, very common to see spiritists saying, "Oh, I probably have done something wrong in my past life. That's why I'm suffering now." Which I would say it could be true, but the reason for your nowadays sufferings is because the actions you have done now,
yeah,
more now than in the past. So in
yeah,
your previous lives. So
yeah,
if you are suffering now, try to look what you have done during your life so far, and perhaps you're gonna find some avenues to fix this, some
yeah,
way to fix, because it's easy to blame the past.
yeah, exactly. And linked to what you were saying. We well, at least here in Brazil now we say oh, other people from other religions usually say, well, spiritists like to suffer. No, spiritist doesn't like to suffer, right? Resigning, we talked about resignation, right? So resignation is not, well, I must suffer this and I will go to resignation, or I will carry this burden on my shoulder. No, we must do the most we can to resolve the problem, resolve the affliction. So it's not a passive mindset, right? It's always an active mindset regarding the problem. Although we know that we create the problem ourselves, we must go in and try to resolve it. So Spiritism doesn't like to suffer.
Yeah, we don't like to suffer. Of course, nobody likes to suffer. But if we are suffering, we want to, point number one, find out the root cause. Point number two, try to fix. Point number three, avoid this happen again.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the point. Like, instead of being in a corner crying and blaming someone, a true spiritist person just raise their hands and say, "Hey, okay, I screw up. That's my fault, my bad." Ask apologies to they have to, try to fix, and life goes on.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what it's simple to say, but it's very difficult to practice. Again, we'll be in trouble, because as further as we know what's going on, what we have to do, and we don't practice these, again, we causing the problems for our future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's an interesting point that you're raising, because I'm preparing a lecture about the divine law, which the third book of Spiritism, and then book 3 of Spiritism. And there, Kardec asked to people, can everybody know the divine laws? And they answer, yes, everybody can know, but not everybody comprehend, understand. Right? And then after that, they say, and you can understand, but you must all. Doesn't mean that you practice. So it's three steps. Right? You can know, but you must comprehend, and then you must practice. Then you go through all what's necessary.
I like that. I like these three steps. Like,
Yeah,
you know the law of God, so
yeah,
you get to know, but you
yeah,
do not understand it as
yeah,
it should
yeah,
be.
yeah.
You can
Understand?
understand, but you cannot practice.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And the third one, you understand,
Mm.
you practice, but you still are in, let's say, in the amateur mode.
Mm. Mm.
So you're trying because this is life. Always we are trying. Always are trying. And sometimes we will win. Sometimes we will fail. But
Yeah, yeah,
we need to keep practicing. We need to keep do not losing faith in ourselves.
yeah, yeah,
Problem is when we lose faith in ourselves.
yeah,
We stop
exactly.
believing ourselves. Then if you don't believe in you, who gonna believe in you?
Yeah, exactly. So you see, in that part about the book, the spiritual book, it also says, I already mentioned it here. Kardec asked, where is the law of God or the divine law of the natural law? And the answer is simple, in the conscience. So that is very interesting because it means that although we are still now going through many problems, many facing many suffering, things like that, because we are still living in a world of a trial and expiation, we have inside us the divine law. So uh, that is
And we know what is right, what is wrong.
yeah. We know in the deep of our heart, we know, of our mind, we know what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, what is just, what is not. So that's very interesting because it means that everything is on us. So then we can understand why the crosses that we carry were put in our shoulders by ourselves, right? Because is our the divine laws of the justice of God is not outside, is not only on the mind of God. The justice of God is inside our consciousness. So that makes us a very, I would say, very special person, right? Because as we go through evolving intellectually and morally, we are doing not more than accomplishing what we have already inside us. That's I'm talking everything about this, thinking about Aristotle, that Greek philosopher. He said it, he used to say this kind of things. He used to say that everything that we are going to accomplish in our future lives is already potentially in ourselves. We are only going to realize or to accomplish what is already in ourselves, and is in ourselves is this divine law. So that is the situation. So that is the good notice, the good message.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's important to understand that we are under control. Looks like we are not under control, but we are.
Yeah.
And what God does, He respects
Mhm.
our free will.
Mhm. Yeah, in that case, free will is a very good issue
Yeah,
because
He respects our free will, even though He knows we will take the wrong way. He respects our free will,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and His mercy is He knows we will take the wrong way, based on our free will, he allows, and he will be there to rescue us when we are ready.
Yes, exactly.
That's his mercy.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why afflictions, misfortunes, diseases are not something that is raised to punish us, right? But it's something
No.
that is at the end of the day is for our benefit.
Yeah.
But, we
Okay, so we reach our time.
okay.
Let's give like just 1 minute here because we do have a delay between our conversation and what people see on Facebook and YouTube. If any questions come up, if not, meanwhile, I would like to say thank you for, first of all, for you, secondly, for the Spiritist Federation of the State of São Paulo in Brazil to be here to give these beautiful explanations and understandings that we needed to face. It's my pleasure to have you here, Roberto, and I hope we keep this relationship for more time.
I'm sure.
And that's it, my friend. So I didn't receive any question here, so
Okay.
I think it's very well said. And so if you want to give any message, please.
Yeah, I would like to thank you again for this invitation to talk about Spiritism. I'm very happy to do that, and I hope people, it was good for the people who were listening us.
Yeah. It's so Camila say thank you to you. Yeah, it's very short talks. We don't want you stay all the time watching these because we know we have, even though you are some are at home, some not, but the idea here is just to come up with today's topics and allow you to make some reflection. We are imperfect. It's not because we are giving these, we know everything. We don't know. Because we are doing this is because we don't know everything. That's
Yeah, right. Yeah.
that's the opposite, you know. But anyway, so once more, thank you, Roberto. Thank you, FESP. And thank you to our friends in America. Thank you, our friends in Ireland and Australia and other countries who are watching us. Please be aware we do have our lives every Tuesday and every Thursday at 7:15 London time. And okay, see, I can say our friend from Chicago, Roberto, always does well in explaining everything. We are blessed to have him. So, see?
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. Appreciate it. This make us our job easy here because now I need to ask this guy here. So, hey, what is your next available date? Okay. So, guys, thank you very much. I'll see you next Tuesday, and I hope you have a great weekend. God bless you all. And Roberto, could you do our final prayer?
Yes, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so let's finish our, let's say, meeting today, and let's raise our thoughts to the spiritual benefactors, thanking them for giving us all the support during this conversation we have. And also we all together raise our thoughts higher and going to Jesus. And thanks the Master for this opportunity to talk about his gospel under the Spiritism point of view, and ask him also to keeping supporting us in this work we do in explaining Spiritism to everybody. So be it.
So be it. Okay. See you Tuesday, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.